Before we start this episode, we want to do a quick disclaimer. This is a mental health podcast and we are not professionals. These are our opinions and personal experiences on mental health. That being said, we do discuss sensitive subjects.
This is our official trigger warning for our episodes. We are a mental health podcast, and we did want to give a trigger warning to any viewers or listeners that may be sensitive to any topics we might bring up. We do not hold back on the podcast. We will be discussing every corner and in and out, the dark and light sides of mental health, mental illness, and those struggles. So thank you for tuning in. This is your final trigger warning. Cheers.
Cheers. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning back into the next installment of our series.
Installment 4.
Mm-hmm. And today is a very prominent topic. Mm-hmm. We are talking narcissism.
Narcissistic personality disorder, all of that.
Grandiose narcissism, vulnerable narcissism.
This plays right into our The Great Impersonators We Are series, because once again, impersonating, putting up this front of personality and psyche.
And separating the selves, our real self, which might be a little empty because we haven't fulfilled that self, and then the false self that we put a front on, almost like a mask.
It really even goes back to the ego, because I feel like narcissism has a lot to do with the ego.
Yes, it does.
So it all does. All these personality disorders do, it seems.
And last episode, we kind of dived into being a chameleon.
Yes.
And, blending in with our society, using other people's perceptions as our own, and trying to blend in and almost not stick out. We're
cause no confrontation.
Yeah, we're afraid of societal.
We feel unsafe.
Yes.
It's like the children that have been made to feel unsafe in their childhoods grow up to kind of just like chameleon because that was their survival mechanism. And we talked about in the last episode how those survival mechanisms don't serve you anymore.
Yes. Yeah. And getting into more defense mechanisms, we can almost dive into narcissism, because we do see those traits start at a very early age.
Yeah. And even though narcissism is like, I think this is such a heavy word, and like a lot of people, I think we just kind of know what it is and we don't know the full extent of it. And like some of us do, but I think majority of us like just kind of know the social media definition of narcissism, which is kind of just like your basic toxic relationship of like selfishness and exploitation and manipulation and lying. And cheating and stuff like that. So like a lot of narcissists look like that, but those are like extreme selfish cases. Those are like the types that don't care what they're doing, like know what they're doing, know they're hurting you, and kind of don't care, and kind of just like are selfish. And,
no awareness.
Yeah. Well, almost like I don't know if that one has awareness, because I feel like if they're cheating on you and lying to you, they kind of know what they're doing.
They just don't care though.
They just don't care. But we've been finding out. We've been diving deep into like just all the topics we talk about. We kind of just dive deep into. It's kind of like we do like eras like every week. And we're like, okay, we're in our narcissism era. Okay, we're in our ego death era. And just talking about it, not necessarily going through it, but we do kind of like dive back into our experiences with it, and we learn a little bit more about it every time we dive into a topic that we pick. So
yes,
it's been like crazy, like how much we've had to learn just trying to like make the podcast,
Yeah. No, yeah, no. We said it earlier that this podcast is almost our personal therapy session.
Yeah,
that we're like, sharing to our gems.
I'm trying to like get a message across to the gems, but through it, I'm kind of like figuring stuff out myself still, and still healing and like learning things. And I'm like, okay. That's kind of how it was meant to be anyway. Like we were meant to learn and grow together, and like
we have a strong base message, but we're still trying to learn ourselves.
Yeah.
And I had to come through, even double down on that concept, because I was not ready. Like I feel like I wasn't vulnerable enough to show people that I wasn't in a way perfect, because we're taught that for so long that if you're in front of a camera or if you're posting on social media, everything has to be perfect. The lighting has to be perfect. Your facial expression has to be perfect. Like everything about the picture needs to be
and there's like a certain standard just for how to do everything. Yeah,
absolutely.
I've realized with the podcast that you can just make whatever you want. Like it doesn't have to be your standard podcast. It doesn't have to be this or that. It's literally like do whatever you want with it. And yeah, so that's been awesome to like discover. But yeah, anyway, we've been learning how there's different types of narcissism.
That was very
how-
eye-opening.
Yeah, what's happening?
The fact that there's 8 or
Like
5
eight.
or 6 or
Yeah, I
however
think
many.
the one I watched a few doctors talk about it, and I think they broke it into like 5 different ones. I don't know. You said you saw like 8 or something.
I feel like different videos have like maybe they were just subsections of the ones that we saw.
There's a lot to it. It goes really like in depth, and I think it seems like some doctors have it more figured out than others. A med circle video that like we can link, it was really good, of like giving the description of what narcissism is and like the psychology like textbook. Like he kind of like broke it down really like easy to understand. If you want to watch that, it's really good.
I love videos that where they can allow you to feel what it actually is like, and they can break it down so much that
like apply
you understand it more because he puts you in their shoes.
And he's like, okay, so like this is what it looks like he did a really good job breaking it down.
Imagine you're a child that goes through neglect and stuff like that, and we don't do that enough. We don't give people, we're just like, that person's a narcissism, but they're not the enemy. They're products of
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just was gonna say real quick, like he even went into how like full-blown narcissists who do take advantage of people really aren't evil. At the core, they're insecure, and they probably also had a bad childhood and had a bad relationship with their parents. So that part was crazy to me. It's just like a huge like ripple effect almost.
Because it's almost generational.
And it's such a heavy
I'm
topic.
starting to realize a lot of the things we're covering is generational, that if it's just passed on, vulnerable narcissism to the grandiose, to the vulnerable. It's a back and forth, and I just hope we're the generation that heals and stops a lot of these generational curses.
And it's really hard, and all it takes really at the end of the day is like that self-awareness, that willingness that we constantly, I feel like we say this every episode, like
we do.
Willingness, self-awareness, like acceptance to like accept what's wrong and how to be more self-aware and how to fix it. And it's harder for the narcissist, it sounds like, to like be more self-aware, whereas like someone with BPD or anxiety, they almost are like ultra self-aware, and a narcissist will be in denial about what's happening. So that's why it seems like such a crazy like person to deal with, because they're in denial and they never say sorry, and they always seem like they're right, and they constantly flex their things, and they almost have this, like this one guy explained it, like this double identity of how they sell themselves and portray themselves and who they actually are. And that's like such like a crazy like life to deal with. Like imagine having someone like that in your life. I'm pretty sure like we all probably know a narcissist or have a narcissistic relationship in our life, but to some degree, you know, some really don't know they're doing it, and it's just like trauma response. Some people are really taking advantage of you. We kind of talked about boundaries in the last episode.
Yes, we did.
And how if you don't set boundaries, those narcissists will like just take advantage of that relationship.
Because they know empathy so well that they're not empathetic themselves, but they know how to manipulate.
It's kind of like we just watched Trap.
Yes, we did.
He was like the ultimate narcissist.
He was.
Like it shows you pretty much what a narcissist is in that movie.
But almost borderline sociopath.
It's like it's almost so narcissistic that he's psychotic. Like he has no empathy, but he like manipulates the fuck out of people.
But just that characteristic of them being able to master empathy but not having it themselves is mind blowing.
I don't understand that. Like how do you know so well but like not have it yourself? Like that's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Do you want to add anything
to that movie?
I just feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, I'm good. I am gonna add stuff, but
okay.
I feel like I'm talking a good amount too.
Okay. So
getting into more of, our classic narcissists. You know, being the overachiever when they're young, being someone who loses that sense of self, being someone that is abused or traumatized. They grow up and they think that they have to find all this validation in other people, right? And they're
would you say the classic narcissist is the one that's like just needs that outside validation and like that image, that self-image to look perfect.
Self-image is huge in a
Yeah.
classic narcissist. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
think,
that when we say classic, it means like the most common, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, sorry, just
Okay.
want to clear that up.
Yeah, they are someone who is good at hiding their real self until you can actually break down them as a person and talk to them face to face. But a lot of times we see people on social media and we see how good their life actually looks.
Yeah.
And we forget that it might be different behind the camera.
Yeah.
That behind closed doors, we don't actually know that person.
Yeah, and there's a difference kind of, I think, in like just sharing with your friends how your life is going, or pictures you like, or cool things you did, or accomplishments you have, versus like literally having like a social media presence that is different from your real life. Like you're actually like struggling or not doing good, but your social media life makes it look like you're popping off and you're like you're awesome. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's why I've always, whenever I talk to somebody, I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, why are they talking so much of themselves? Why are they pushing how good their life is? Why are they saying all the good things about this subject? And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, is it actually that good? Are they actually,
Yeah, I feel
or is
like
it their experience? Is that what they want me to think?
it always feels like the people that are like, oh, I'm winning big bets, I have a nice car, like look at this, look at that, and it's like they brag a lot about all the nice things they have, or look at this nice house I just got, but it's like, but they're actually like super in debt from that car, or like they just destroy their credit to get that house, and it's like they're not actually as well off as they are like selling.
Yep. I always think about that when I see a nice car on the road. I'm like, I
like,
wonder,
okay, but, like,
I wonder if that
what's the
person's
payment?
like pushing themselves way in debt with a $500 car payment.
Yes, because it's like I don't see the point in being gaudy when you don't actually have it like that. Like I think it's cool to flex if that's like true. Like and to me, like truth is like a huge concept. Like if that's like the truth, flex all you want. You know what I'm saying? But like if you have to go in debt to like get a nice car, like be so fucking for real.
Yeah.
Like have a car that you can afford. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I used to be really embarrassed about my car, and I'm like, the more I get older, the more I realize that shit gets me from point A to point B. Barely breaks down, knock on wood. Does very well for me. Great on gas mileage.
Yeah. No,
Serves
like,
me very well, and I'm loyal to the car. The car's loyal to me. I don't need much more than that.
but it's like even if you have this car that you hope to have nicer cars one day, it's like that it's okay to have that goal. Like don't go in debt trying to like have nice things, and then you're just gonna go bankrupt. And instead of like, you know, you could like, you know, get the cars that you can afford and build up to those goals, and then have long lasting success and things that you built up to, instead of like going in debt to get them fast.
Yeah.
And then ruining your life, basically, like going bankrupt.
No, absolutely. And I think that one was the benign narcissist.
There was, no. I think that one was your classic narcissist or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but she called it like your classic narcissist. And then there's like the extreme narcissist that like is very self-aware, psychotic, knows what they're doing, manipulates you, uses you, blah, blah, blah. And
that's more the personality disorder, right?
Yeah, I think I don't really know. It's kind of confusing because it's like you can have narcissistic traits, and then you can have narcissistic personality disorder, and then there's narcissism, and it's like I don't know. I'm a little confused. I'm not a doctor, but like
yeah, no, we're not experts.
Yeah,
we're also trying to learn ourselves too.
Yeah, but just from what I know, like she went into, it was interesting the way she broke it down. She went into covert narcissism, vulnerable narcissism, which you mentioned a few minutes ago.
I did.
Do you want to talk about that? We don't really, I don't think we acknowledge this one enough. It is a form of narcissism, but we often just see them as like a little cryy like victim.
Pick me, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vulnerable narcissism or covert narcissists.
Yeah.
When we talk about those, they're the ones that almost back away, but in a narcissistic way. Like they're almost defending themselves, but being selfish in the process.
Yeah, like woe is me, like feel bad for me.
Yeah.
Kind of like when it gets so extreme, like they're threatening to like harm themselves if you leave. Like that's narcissistic. That's really manipulative.
Yes,
and
because you're feeling bad for that person. You're like, oh my god, they might actually do this, but they're playing on your guilt. They're playing on the fact that they know they're going to get a rise out of you by threatening such harsh reality, like harsh harsh concepts on you.
Yeah, like like almost like a punishment or
Mm-hmm.
consequence. If you don't pay enough attention to me, like I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do that.
Yeah, and a lot of the times I feel vulnerable narcissists are products of like someone else being a very pushy narcissist, like a classic narcissist or a
Yeah.
grandiose narcissist.
Yeah, like when they like constantly make you not feel good enough,
Mm-hmm.
and then you, as a result, it seems like I agree with you. You get a covert vulnerable narcissist because it'll have like an overbearing parent that constantly is better than that person and doesn't make this child feel good enough, and then the child grows up and is like, woe is me, I'm constantly the victim, like no one cares about me, like no one loves me, like that constant like never ending well of like I need reassurance, I need more love because I was neglected in my childhood. Yeah, that I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's crazy how like narcissism, it almost just travels down, because it's like I hate that concept. We talk about it all the time. Like it's like when it rains it pours, or
Mm-hmm.
like when it's good it gets better. It's like I hate that, you know? It kind of sucks that like everything snowballs. So like if there's narcissism, a seed of narcissism in one person, it's gonna like grow and affect the whole family and affect everyone in their lives. Whereas if this line of family never had a narcissistic seed, like they're probably gonna be fine for generations. And in that aspect, you know what I mean? Like that's crazy. So like this whole family now has to like fight this.
Yeah, generational trauma is the most bizarre thing that it might take us way more time to really understand.
It's like stronger than genetics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you could look nothing like your sister, but like you'll act everything like your great 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 grandmother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy to me.
Unbelievable. And some of the feedback we were getting from our past episodes too, of, you know, one of our commenters said that his or her great great grandmother was raped. And they were experiencing that trauma all the way down.
And he thinks that that's where it like started.
Yeah.
The trauma. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Like it takes one act of violence or evil, like to traumatize someone, and that destroy families and things for a long time. And this isn't to say like things are unfixable though.
No, not at all. And yeah, like, and that's what I thought too when I was watching a lot of these videos. I was like, oh my god, like I'm so nervous, like I have some of those traits, I have some of those tendencies. I got very scared, but then I was like, this is a good thing. This is a way for me to self-discover. This is a way for me to understand that I can fix these things. These aren't my fucking end-all be-all traits. I can change that. I can develop new ways to shed off the skin of self-defense mechanisms I had when I was a child, and really blossom into the way I want to be as a man.
I absolutely agree. I think a lot of psychologists have this nasty, ugly, yucky opinion or perspective, in my opinion, that you just like can't change. First of all, I want to say that's what diagnoses are for. Diagnoses are information to help you take the next steps. Like diagnoses are discovering what actually happened, understanding the psychology behind what actually happened, and then being able to be like, okay, now this is how I go forward from that. It helps you manage, it helps you get better, it helps you learn how to fix it. It's just information, you know what I mean? It's not something to live by, it's not a label, it's not like I'm a BPPD and we be like this. No, like we're literally all different because like we're all different people. We just have like similar coping mechanisms or responses to trauma that we have formed and we have to unlearn.
Yes.
And I just think it's an unlearning of behavior. I don't think like you are unchangeable. I don't think you have this disorder forever. You're going to suffer from this disorder forever. And I think it's so stupid when people are like, he suffers from autism. No, I live with autism.
Yeah.
I have autism. Like I don't suffer.
No.
Thank you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and these doctors, like some of them that we were watching, some of them were like, no, like a narcissist is never gonna admit anything. They will never change, like, blah, blah, blah.
No, but if you plant the seeds, or as the one we did, like, say, give them nuggets, They
Yeah,
can
it's like
potentially
seeds.
become self-aware. The mind is so beautiful in the way that it almost is constantly able to change and constantly able to heal. I'm a firm believer in that, and you actually taught me this very principle. And in the beginning of probably like halfway in our relationship so far, that I used to say I'm a gambling addict, and you were like, I don't like when you say that. And I clarified with you. I
Yeah,
was like, what do you mean? And you were like, you're not a gambling addict. You were a gambling addict. There's a difference. And I was like, but that's always going to be my truth. I'm always going to carry that. I'm always going to have to understand and continue to find ways to make that better. But
and you were
you
kind of
also
like once an
clarified,
addict, always an addict,
yes, that
like
was
type
very,
thing.
very prevalent on that aspect. And you showed me a more beautiful side to it. You were saying that it's not always going to be your truth because you're not in that anymore. You are a new healed person.
Yeah.
You've healed that part of your life. You're going to continue to heal that part of your life. And yes, there might be something that comes along the way that challenges you, but
Mhm.
that's just going to further your healing.
Yeah, like it doesn't mean you won't relapse or you're healed forever, but it's like you don't have to take on that label
Mm-hmm.
of like I'm an addict and like I'm always going to be an alcoholic, I'm always going to be an addict, I'm always going to be this or that. Once especially oh my god, once a cheater, always a cheater.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Like I hate that shit. It's like there is that that's the most magical thing about humans is how much we can evolve and change.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that with my whole heart. I believed that before I did the terrible things in my life, and I'm not just saying that because I've done terrible things, you know what I'm saying? Like I think we all go through thing not all, like you won't understand how easy it is to begin to cope or act out of character when you are faced with certain situations or when you are faced with certain trauma. Like you become a different person and you gain coping and survival mechanisms that have nothing to do with your true colors or your character or who you actually would be in a safe environment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I think that's also, I love everything you're saying, by the way. And I just want to capitalize on something that you just made me think about is that change is a beautiful thing, but I think in our lives, we really have to accept change in every single stage. We had to accept change when we were kids, when we were young. We had to grow up to accept change to our adolescent, into our teen years. We had to accept change into adulthood, 18,
yeah,
19. We have
we're
to accept,
constantly
we're
changing.
constantly having to accept change. And if you don't accept change, you get held behind. You start adapting negative,
You get left
impactful,
behind.
yeah, you get left behind, but also you start to create toxic traits because your mind is back where it shouldn't be. You aren't adapting with the times, you're not adapting with your environment, you're not allowing yourself to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about the survival mechanisms is we have to remember to take off the defenses
Mm-hmm.
when we are no longer around the offenders,
Yeah.
you know. But I want to dive deeper into narcissism
Okay.
itself. Like we were talking about the covert narcissist,
Yes.
that is kind of like they become very victim mentality and make everything about themselves in that way because they feel like the world owes them something. They feel indebted
Mm-hmm.
to the world and they feel indebted emotionally to like pretty much everybody. And then there was the benign narcissist, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was very interesting to me because this one can also be a result of like a more power hungry dominant narcissist, or like a louder controlling like bolder narcissist. Classic, like we were saying, can kind of cause like the benign narcissism to take place as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the benign narcissist is someone that we see a lot of deflecting with, a lot of, they see someone is hurt and they see the way that that person needs empathy, and they're almost thinking to themselves, how did I cause this? What did I do?
Yeah.
What did I do to that person? Like,
Yeah.
and I think we see that a lot. And
It almost comes off as like overly insecure because it's like, are you guys talking about me? But it's like nobody was talking about you. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
interesting. No, I was just gonna add that they think they're being this most like the most selfless person, but they're actually being selfish.
Yeah.
And there's this like weird middle that I think a lot of narcissists feel or don't feel, actually, lack of feeling, is that they don't understand that that person just needs reassurance, that person just needs words of affirmation or needs to be told certain things, and they just can't in the moment experience or know what to do because they're so worried that about how they feel or how
More
is
focused
that
on their own feelings.
yeah, it's like, I want to get away from this situation, I don't want to be a part of it. What did I do? I'm so mad at myself for saying this because it caused this, when in reality you said that the consequence happened. You just need to apologize. You need to move forward.
It feels very selfish because it doesn't even feel like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that because it hurt that person. It's like, it's more like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that because now it's causing this uncomfortable situation for me, and I don't want to be in this uncomfortable situation. So it's all selfish. It's all like self motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also did want to mention that the episode we did watch, there was a line that he said where that really stuck out to me, that it's almost like a chess game.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah,
it was like,
I was like, whoa, that's really eye-opening for me.
He was saying it's like they said like as a child they've been taught that everything's a competition, that love is conditional. Like they've pretty much been taught by a narcissistic parent that my love is conditional and you have to earn my love, and if you get good grades I'll love you, and if you do this thing I want I'll love you, but if you don't then I don't love you.
I dismiss you, I disown you.
Yeah, varying like extremities of it, I feel like. And then he said that forms, they have to earn love. So he was saying they basically go through life thinking that everything is a chess game, and that like you have to figure out psychologically how to like make people love you, and it's like constantly a game for them. Instead of just being genuine, being honest and being vulnerable, they're just like constantly like, how can I play this the best way? Yeah, so that I get the most love and attention.
That's true.
Fulfillment.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like this whole concept is crazy, honestly.
It's a lot.
And narcissism to me is more like, it's like, say that wall was over there and there's like this sheet in front of the wall and it's like all these amazing things, and I just tear down the sheet and there's just a blank wall behind it. That's what narcissism, like in my mind, is. It's this full on front, like you're looking at this person, their accolades, their awards, their trophies, all their achievements and everything they are so proud of, but you push past that and sometimes there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's almost because they were saying that like that it actually roots back to a deep emptiness and insecurity and lack of self. It's a personality disorder. That's something I didn't really think much about until we were diving into this, was that narcissism is a personality disorder. And it's just like kind of a form of coping mechanism. I feel like BPD is more like overthinks and it's super self-aware, because being ultra self-aware is also a trauma response. Whereas narcissism is like in denial and not self-aware and copes in that way. Yeah, it's really interesting the way we decide to deal with things. It's like we can each go through trauma and end up differently because we coped with it differently. That's why I am so infatuated with the fact that it starts from our parents. It starts from when we're young. It starts from just learning and soaking in everything that we're seeing around us. I think it happens so early on. It does. People are like, oh, well, this traumatizing thing happened when I was 10 or 13. And I'm like, it was before that. Go back. Because I'm like, it was earlier. Yeah. Like by 10, you've already like established a personality. And that was formed by like early on. Like it happens so early, in my opinion. It really I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but I think it does. I just say everything confidently, so it sounds like I'm saying like it's a fact, but these are just all my observations from like being alive, I guess, for as long as I've been alive, which I guess is very long, but
Yeah. I mean, that's all we are. That's what wisdom is, right? It's a collective experience throughout your entire life. Like as we get older, we get more wiser, right? That's the
yeah,
the saying, or how it's perceived. And I guess when we're young and kids, we're almost, I think we've talked about this, we're like a blank canvas.
yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, our family and everybody raising us is just taking this paintbrush and just abstractly
leaving their own mark.
making their own mark, making their own painting on that canvas. So you have like this crazy looking painting, and you have to make sense of it all. You have to put
Like,
all
where
the
am I,
pieces,
actually,
to make
I feel
a portrait.
like narcissists, you're talking about the wall situation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like narcissists, when you tear back that like projection of what they're selling themselves to be, that blank canvas is still there.
Yeah.
Like still blank.
That's what I was trying to say with the wall.
Yeah, like the wall's still blank. It's
Yeah.
empty, because it's like narcissists create a fake identity that they even try to convince themselves of.
Yeah.
So it's like if they really were to peel that back, there's nothing. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, who are you? You never decided, because you chose to make a fake personality instead of just like actually decide who you are.
Mhm.
So that's crazy. I can only understand like how challenging that would be, how difficult that would be to try to peel back and deal with. You would have to like start over and figure out like who you are and figure out your identity and what you like and what you believe and where you stand, and you know what I mean? Like that's a big reality shift.
It's crazy in my mind that we can go through life with this fake persona, and at some point,
coping mechanism.
yeah, and at some point, if at all, it comes down and we have to face the things that we didn't even know we created falsely. At any point in someone's life, they can change this.
Yeah. Like, it is definitely a lot. I see more now why it's a personality disorder, because this is crazy, and I hope this wouldn't happen, but I could almost see like if someone's, like you said, deep into their life and they've spent so many years using this coping mechanism of narcissism, and they did finally like become self-aware and try to face that, how like depending on how deep they're into the narcissism and the manipulation and the deceit, I feel like that could trigger schizophrenia. I feel like that like would just trigger more reality shift and more questions and confusion of like, okay, well, who am I actually, and what's true and what's not, and well, when I did that, was I being fake when I did that? Like that, I could only imagine the thoughts that would go through a narcissist's head becoming self-aware, because as a BPD, with somebody that does kind of encounter reality shifts and those constant like weaving questions of like what's real, I feel like that could trigger that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I think that's the point, right? Like you're losing reality overall, and
it's almost an ego death.
You're slowly losing more reality, right? I mean, overall,
well, there was never a reality if you were constantly using this fake identity.
But you're talking about schizophrenia, whereas like that's almost a complete loss of reality.
Schizophrenia, I feel like you almost go into like this psychosis of like just going kind of crazy because you don't know what's real. You're like, oh my God, like what is real? It's like, it's self-aware, but it makes you kind of go crazy. It's almost like that concept of like the smarter you get, the crazier you go. So ignorance is bliss sometimes.
It is. And I think that's something that I'm starting to realize within myself that we need to do is the more we dive deep and try to heal everything, we also need to remember that not to lose ourselves in the process. I think that's a very scary concept. It's hard.
You have to stay grounded. Yeah. Like you have to, because sometimes you're going through healing, and as you're going through healing, you're gonna randomly have to rip off an emotional band-aid of, whoa, I didn't realize that, or I did never see the relationship that way. I did never see my childhood that way. I never saw that situation that way. So for women, trigger warning, you might realize I didn't even realize I was sexually assaulted. I didn't even realize that was rape. And like you have to go through this emotional, traumatic Band-Aid ripoff of like realizing what something was. And that is hard, and that could trigger you to like, if you don't deal with it healthily, that could trigger you to go to bad places, to
Panic attacks,
anything, to have to cope. So it's like, stay in therapy and stay grounded, and don't lose yourself. It is really hard to face the realities of things when you're becoming self-aware and when you're healing and when you're realizing what things actually are. It's really hard, especially when you kind of feel like the more you heal, the more you realize everything that you saw in a good light actually is bad. And sometimes it feels like almost your whole life was actually worse than you thought it was. And so that's really overwhelming.
And you've watched me do that self-realization within myself. I had to break down a lot of things that I thought were amazing in my life, and I thought was perfect. I thought was,
it's almost depressing to realize like everything wasn't as great as I thought it was. And that sucks. And it's like, but you can't lose yourself in that. You deserve better. It's time to like realize it and step into better treatment. Because were you truly happy in that fake identity? Were you truly happy coping? Were you truly happy like pretending that things were good?
It's almost like you have to like, you're going through your brain, right? So just imagine like a hand going through your brain because you're like trying to pick out different things to heal. But it's almost like you need to take your other hand and put it on your soul and in your heart and hold it at the same time while you're healing. I know this is like kind of like cheesy, but at the same time it works. Like you're holding yourself while you're going through something. You're remembering that to love yourself and that your heart is still there. Your heart is still pure. Your intentions are in the right place while you're healing, because some of the things you're going to uncover are going to be so shattering and life shattering and alter the way you view life permanently. And a lot of the times that is something that is very hard,
life altering,
very hard to experience,
perspective altering, which is huge. And like I was kind of just saying that realizing that narcissism, it's almost an ego death. You would have to like go through an ego death to kill that narcissism and have to figure out who you actually are,
because it's an inflated sense of self.
You'd have to hit rock bottom and face the truth, face who you actually are, figure out who you actually are, and leave like that ego, that pride, that fake identity, that false sense of self behind.
And that's not easy. And we'd want to remind our viewers, our gems, that we started with ego death because that is probably one of the craziest experiences you will face in any point of your life.
Like it's
it's a reset. And we just want to remind you that just make sure you keep the people that are your support system around, because you're going to need those guardrails, those people to reach out to when you're going through these things. And you don't have to go through anything alone. I think that's something that I've realized a lot in my life is I always thought I had to do something alone. I always thought like, this is my burden, this is my pride, my ego, this is something that I have to experience, that I have to do on my own. And I think that's where we go wrong in life, is we are biologically dependent. I think that might be a far-reaching word, but we need those other people. We need other people.
There's a reason why a theme of like better together exists. I agree with you. Like that unity, that power in numbers, like that exists for a reason. And I hate that we're taught, even in society, I feel like we're taught a lot that we should be independent and we should rely on nobody and we don't need anybody. And that's just not true. We're meant to work together. We're meant to rely on each other in a healthy amount. And I fully believe in this concept. And I think they even talked about it throughout the Narcissistic videos of what a healthy relationship should look like and what is false. And a lot of the doctors were saying how there is a healthy dose of dependency in relationships. And then again, you don't fully rely on like your partners or whatever, your children, but there is a sense of like dependency, and it's okay to help each other and it's okay to need help. And like if you realize, I think I shared a post this week that said like we actually can't do anything on our own. We pretend to be creatures of individuality, but like we can't be a baby without our mom. We can't have been alive without another person. Like we need somebody to take care of us. Like we can't do anything
What about those
alone.
itches on our back that we just can't reach? You know?
Yeah. What would you do without me?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't.
Who would make my coffee? Like,
God, who would? Never mind. Sorry.
what?
I'm just kidding.
Gosh, dude.
Damn.
Who would I get tattoos with?
Exactly.
Like, no, I'm just kidding.
Like, I think there is a beauty of togetherness. I think I said
Absolutely.
that in prior episodes that
Community.
yeah, community is everything. You know, I'm not an advocate for religion, but I will say the beautiful side of religion is it brings people together. It brings people into a
That's what I
social
love about Taylor
gathering.
Swift. Let's talk about a better religion. Taylor
True.
Swift. She, the Swiftie religion. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. But like that, it's crazy how many like people meet through fandoms. I just saw another video of like Halsey and Ariana Grande, like people like meeting through those fandoms. And I literally like, I think all of my current female friendships I have through, and actually some
Like-mindedness.
males as well, I have met through the Swiftie fandom. Like we literally all know each other through Taylor Swift, and it's like crazy the way that like something can bring people together. And like anyway, unity is beautiful.
And not straying too far off topic because I do want to get more into this too, but I'm like because man,
What?
I was just gonna say the community is so big, but the aspect,
RuneScape.
Yeah, no, but that's the principle of religion, right? It's the fact that we're all coming together and devout for Jesus. Like that, it's because we're like-minded. We both have the same principles.
Yeah.
When you're going to a Taylor Swift concert, you all share equal commonality that you love Taylor Swift. I love RuneScape. The people that play RuneScape, I'm going to bond with because we have similar interests.
Yeah.
We
And I just
can
feel like,
bond over the fact that we love this game, we love this music, we love this religion, and I think that's beautiful.
yeah. And I like, the thing I like about the Swiftie fandom as well is it's not just like her music we love, it's like everything she stands for. We know we're going there and we're gonna be safe and around other feminists and people that support gay pride and gay rights, and just like all of these things that we know is like-minded and same kind of similar characters. Which is nice, but that's kind of like what we need more of. And especially like in America, I just feel like there's a lot of division. So like we've even said in the podcast, like we want there to be a community. That's why we have the Discord up. We want, you know, people to be like-minded in a goal of healing and a goal of self-improvement and a goal of mental health and relationships and just winning at life, like being successful but not, you know, with money. Like let's succeed in our relationships, let's succeed in our growth and our self-improvement and our character, like, and our awareness. Like that's our message and what we're trying to like get behind. And it's so awesome to see people come together, like you said, for the like-minded like goals. And we want that to be self-improvement and mental health and just a healthiness of community and individuality overall. There is a beautifulness or a beauty in individuality, but togetherness and unity is important too.
There's nothing more I could add on to that.
Sorry.
That was perfectly said. No, I just that was everything. That's everything we want in this podcast. That's everything. That's our message. That's our brand. That's the core principle of our mission.
There's power in numbers.
Powers
the
in
more
numbers.
we can unify and have a kind message of like how to just be better people and better communities. Like I think we could make a better world.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree.
Sorry.
No, what are you saying?
I don't know.
Is there anything else you want to touch
Was
on?
I loud in my own house that I bought
That's the
my
vine,
own
right?
songs?
Oh, that sucks.
Sorry.
I'm dead. That's funny. Or is that Taylor Swift? Oh, sorry. Taylor Swift. That was this. I think this topic this week was, we both agree, a big topic.
It's a lot. Like, there's
It's
a
a
lot
lot.
more you could say. There's a lot of avenues you could take with this.
Yeah, and I think as a society, we've just ran with this word and we've almost not given it enough
Yeah, it's a really like big blanket term.
Yeah, it is. It's something that we just put a label on, and that person's a narcissist, that girl's a narcissist. But when you really dive deep in the psychology behind the word and what it actually means and how it incorporates in the self, you almost give it a lot more respect. And I think we both found that respect
and understanding and compassion. Really, it's like, okay, now it makes sense. Yeah,
it's not just a label anymore. It's something that we can learn from.
Yeah,
and I think that's
manage.
That's the beauty that I've reflected on with the research on this topic. And I did want to say that next week we are going to be talking about stoicism. It is going to be a way to not only stoicism, but we want to touch base on a lot of different ways that you can heal from the topics that we discussed. The 4 topics we talked.
Narcissism and stopping being a chameleon. That I think stoicism will bring clarity on how to manage all of that.
And stoicism, I attribute a lot of saving my life and changing and helping me discover who I was.
It's also a large topic.
It is very large.
I'm sure
topic.
We'll only like cover a glimpse of it. Kind of like I feel like all of our episodes are like that. Yeah. Well, I feel like all conversations are like that. Isn't everything a seed in society? Isn't the whole podcast a seed in society? Isn't each episode a seed of conversation?
It is.
You know what I mean? So nothing's ever going to be fully covered, I feel.
That was amazing. I'm so happy you talked about that because I always feel like when we're at the end of an episode, I'm like, did we cover it enough?
Yeah, and it's like we're never going to cover it enough.
No, you're not. There's always something more you can talk about. There's always a different idea, but that's the beauty of having more than one episode. And we can come back to it.
Living, breathing, like conversation of mental health and self-awareness.
And I know this is a 5-part series that we're doing right now, but we talked about doing more series.
Yeah, we're going to continue to do series.
That way we don't feel like rushed. We can actually dive deep into specific topics, concepts, and
I think we're going to be, I don't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think we're going to be doing a relationship series soon.
Yes.
Come Valentine's Day in February. So we're definitely going to take advantage of the Valentine's Day season and do a relationship series.
We're going to channel our To Be Better podcast.
Yes, that's a great podcast.
But please, if you're going to heal, if you feel like you have narcissistic traits, get help, get therapy, reach out to the people you can trust and heal. And don't feel like you are the problem. Feel like you're a victim and get the help that you need, because a lot of the times narcissists are just victims to how their parents raised them.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we don't have to take responsibility for things though.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, Gems. Please be sure to tune into our next week's episode where we discuss ways you can overcome these adversities,
manage and
heal.
Yes. We're going to be talking stoicism next week. Be sure to tune in.
Yes. We love you, Gems.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you more. I feel like that was a great episode. Thank you for doing it with me.